So IASP is a World Congress on Pain. It brings together people from all specialties, researchers, clinicians.
I'd say it's an international society, brings the world together to talk about different topics relevant to pain researchers.
The IASP, I think, is about cutting-edge research in pain management and get you up to date about how to manage your patients.
Bringing relief to those in pain. That's the pursuit of the International Association on the Study of Pain. The IASP is tackling all aspects of pain through research and education, awareness and advocacy.
We're looking to teach people and collaborate with people and see where we can go.
I'm chairing a conference on clinical trials and clinical trial methodology. So that's my primary reason for being here, but I'm also excited to see my friends and colleagues, etc.
Well, seeing friends, seeing fellow researchers, but also kind of cross-pollinating ideas.
This is the premier global meeting on pain, bringing together scientists, clinicians, and healthcare providers from all around the world and across multiple pain disciplines. From Toronto, Ontario, this is the 2022 World Congress on Pain, and this is IASP TV. Hello and welcome to day one of IASP TV. I'm Matria Godfrey and I'll be taking you through the next 4 days of the World Congress on Pain. IASP TV will bring you the most exciting highlights from hands-on sessions and sit-down interviews with our keynote speakers and award winners. We will take a tour of some of the facilities all across the globe at the forefront of tackling the persistent problem of pain. It is sure to be a jam-packed week, so remember, you can always see news and highlights on our IASP TV monitors displayed all throughout the convention center, anytime on the dedicated page on the IASP website, and of course, always on our YouTube channel and Twitter feed.
And now, as we finally get together face to face, there's a lot to look back on these past 2 years and much to look forward to. Joining us now here in studio is current IASP President Claudia Sommer. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for being with me.
It has been a wild 2 years, that's for sure. What was it like trying to navigate a pandemic while also fulfill your duties of this role and provide the assistance that your members need?
Everything has been very different. You know, my first Congress with IASP in my role as president was a virtual Congress. I had a virtual inauguration speech. And the many plans I had, what I wanted to do during this term of presidency, it all boiled down into video conferences and virtual meetings with everybody. But we did as best as we could. And on the other side, it was also very different for our members. Mm-hmm. Many of our members are practicing clinicians, anesthesiologists who were called back to their intensive care units to look after the very ill patients there. So their commitment for the pain clinics had to be cut back. Mm-hmm. So everybody's life had changed, and we just had to navigate it from day to day.
So what would you say has been the most rewarding part?
Several things. I mean, the good thing was to see things getting done even during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. With IASP and with the team. We did a lot of things even under the lockdown conditions. We got the new website up and running. We inaugurated the new task force of the young people, of the early career people. And we also worked on our new strategic plan. Sometimes it's good to have some time to sit back. Mm-hmm. When you can't be so active traveling through the world, mm-hmm. but sitting back, thinking about the vision and the mission of IASP and to think what is really important to us.
Wonderful. Let's go back to the members. And what did you hear from members that were some of the biggest challenges that they faced?
For our basic scientists, their labs were shut down for months and months during the lockdown. The postdocs and students, they were not allowed to go there. And there's quite a bit you can do in home office. You can think about your projects, you can write your papers, but the experiments, they were stuck. And of course also the clinical research with patients and volunteers who come into the clinics to get tests and to be part of clinical trials. This was all stopped and like this very much delayed.
You know, the theme of bridging the gap is a big one here this year. Where would you say the biggest disconnect is between the researchers and clinicians and doctors and those with the actual lived experience of pain?
There are many small disconnects. And this is why I'm so happy that the Global Year Task Force of this year is trying to bridge this gap with looking at what pain research can do for the clinic and what we can bring into the clinic. There are the usual disconnects between what we learn from the animal experiments and what we bring into humans. For example, there's a wonderful drug that reduces the pain in the mouse, but the human person just doesn't have the same receptor as the mouse. So these examples, or the other one that we know from clinical trials that we should do this or that treatment, and we put it into the guidelines, but the busy clinician doesn't even have time to read the guideline and still does it the way they did it 10 years ago. Little things like this, or also what we as clinicians think is a good outcome for a patient or a good improvement, those people living with pain, they may tell us, no, this is not what we want, this is not helpful. And we have to talk more, we have to talk about all these things to have this communication going. And I think our Global Year 2022 only started this, and it will be ongoing, and I'm very glad about this.
All right, another focus here this year is the focus on young professionals and really helping them advance their career. What would you say is a key aspect of meeting the needs of those up-and-coming young professionals, and how does IASP do that?
So my approach when initiating this task force of the young people was that it would come from them, that it wouldn't be the old people telling them what they need. We do this anyway. We give them stipends, we promote their research, so we're thinking of ways to meet them. We give them a way to connect, to meet. But I want to hear it from them, and this is what they're working on right now, to define their own needs and how things could be done better. What we really want at IASP is to have young people in all our committees, in all our task forces, to have their representatives, because, I mean, they are the future.
Right. Yes. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on the conference.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tackling pain is an ongoing process, and technology always plays a key role. Let's see how ultrasound is now being utilized in our very first hands-on health workshop.
Today we are showing the participant how ultrasound, which is an imaging modalities, how we use it in the pain intervention. Ultrasound is very good in soft tissue. So traditionally, just backtrack a little bit, pain physician either do it blinding, which they don't see anything, or do X-ray, we see bone, but then they don't see a soft tissue. But most of the time, the target is in soft tissue, and ultrasound is the best in seeing the soft tissue. And I would say a lot of those areas that we want to put a needle, we need to see the soft tissue, and ultrasound will guide you there.
Each time I do one of these workshops, I feel like I see more. I'm of the generation of pain physician which I learned with X-ray. Everything was fluoroscopy, which involved radiation. The first time I picked up an ultrasound probe, I thought I was looking at a snowstorm. I couldn't recognize a thing. Each time I come to a seminar like this, I learn a little more, I get a little better. When I go back home, my care of patients is better and it's safer.
Chronic pain pain affects 1 in 5 Canadians, and across North America, pain management costs $600 billion annually. That's more than heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. The Chronic Pain Network puts patients at the center of its work, developing new treatments and shaping groundbreaking research through a patient-centered approach. Let's see how.
In 2016, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research made an unprecedented investment in chronic pain research in Canada. As part of their Strategies for Patient-Oriented Research program, they funded a series of research networks focused on chronic disease, and it was very exciting that they elected to identify chronic pain as a disease in its own right. That meant that the Chronic Pain Network could come into being. It is a national network that engages both people with lived experience as well as researchers, clinicians, educators, and policymakers. And our goal when we set out was to change the way pain is managed in Canada. 20% of Canadians experience chronic pain sufficient to disrupt their lives. The general public needs to be aware of that. Employers need to be aware of that because they need to recognize that a portion of their workforce may require some attention. And policymakers need to be aware of the problems so that they apply policy interventions appropriately.
Patient partners are front and center in all aspects of the Chronic Pain Network. They're involved in the governance of the network. They help to drive the priority setting process. They're involved in all of the projects, but they also lead projects on their own, which is something that historically we've not seen a lot of in Canada. But here you'll see patient partners stepping forward, identifying an issue, proposing research that they would like to lead, and then finding other partners to help them execute on that project.
I've been involved with research community as a patient partner for almost 20 years. I'm disabled from being in chronic pain. I lived with rheumatoid arthritis for almost 40 years, so I've had a lot of disability from this. So it's helped me to take my experience of living with chronic pain to help improve lives of other people so they don't have to go through what I've gone through.
Even basic research scientists say to me or say to groups that they would never start a new research without having a patient partner or many. So to me, that's the greatest gain that we've had, other than the outside influences that CPN has been able to bring about.
Age groups are very important. One of the things that's unrecognized is that children experience chronic pain almost as often as adults. So roughly 20% of children will experience chronic pain of some sort.
So the program of research that I brought into the network was an app called I Can Cope with Pain, which is a smartphone app that actually helps young people with chronic pain to learn about their pain, set goals, track their symptoms, and then have advice pushed to them in terms of mind-body strategies, movement strategies, and also offer social support to help them learn strategies to better cope and manage their pain.
The other end of the spectrum, the seniors, particularly seniors who end up institutionalized, perhaps with dementia, that's a population where you have to have a particular focus on assessing patients and considering pain as part of their constellation of symptoms that needs to be treated.
I use an app to track my pain experience, and what I find helpful about that is once I've tracked it, I can put it aside and not think about it. However, the next time I have a physician appointment, I can pull together that information very quickly and simply show trending to my physician. And I found that to be incredibly helpful.
Many, if not all, First Nations languages in the country do not actually have a word for pain in the sense that we use the concept of chronic pain in English. So that made it very challenging for clinicians who are trained in sort of European Western medicine to interact with Indigenous peoples clinically.
It's really important to involve Indigenous communities in research and improving access to care because they have their own unique needs. We do have some Indigenous researchers who have expertise in working with those communities to come up with the best solutions for them, and it's really working with them. So we as researchers and clinicians shouldn't be coming up with the solutions. It really should come from the communities themselves.
The Chronic Pain Network truly walks the talk in terms of involving and engaging patients at the table in decision-making of the network, in how research can be improved by hearing the patient voice. I believe that they have shown other organizations how it can be done.
The next immediate 4 years of the network focus on knowledge mobilization and implementation science. So we will be building what we hope to be long-term structures that will help to drive out the most current knowledge in understanding chronic pain and treating chronic pain, and hope to very much shorten what can be a 10 or 15 year cycle of getting knowledge into practice and bring it down to maybe as little as a year or a couple of years.
We're having a momentum. I think we need to continue gentle pressure on our governments in order to move forward and to make everybody understand that $40 billion in direct and indirect costs of chronic pain is not wasted anymore, and that we can achieve gains by reducing the cost of chronic pain.
Right now, I think I am the most excited I've been in the last 30 years about the future of chronic pain research and care in Canada. We've gotten to a point where not only do we have excellent researchers and excellent clinicians, but that is starting to be recognized. And I think healthcare systems and the federal government and the provincial governments are starting to realize the importance of chronic pain and addressing chronic pain. And I think the network has the possibility now of really bringing that interest into focus and providing a resource that people can come to gather the necessary information to make good decisions.
That wraps up day one of IASP TV. Don't forget, you can always see any news or highlights that you may have missed by checking out the dedicated IASP TV page on the IASP website or by watching our YouTube channel or Twitter feed. We are just getting started here in Toronto. We'll be back tomorrow for another exciting day of IASP TV. Have a great one, and we'll see you then.